My name is Daniel Pierce, and for 12 years, I didn't speak a single word at school. Not one. People thought I was broken, damaged, weak. They were wrong about all of it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The story starts on the worst day of my life. The day I watched my little sister Emma drown. Well, almost drown. I was 8 years old. Emma was 6. We were at Cedar Lake with our parents. And the sun was so bright that day it hurt to look at the water. Mom and Dad were setting up the picnic blanket and Emma wanted to show me how far she could swim. "Watch me, Danny. Watch me." Those were the last words I heard before everything went wrong. She kicked off from the dock, her little pink floaties catching the sunlight. But 30 feet out, one of them slipped off. Then the other. And suddenly, my baby sister was thrashing in water that was way too deep. I opened my mouth to scream for help. Nothing came out. I tried again. My throat moved. My lungs pushed air. But no sound. Not even a whisper. I ran to my parents, grabbing my mom's arm, pointing frantically at the water. But by the time she looked up, by the time she understood, Emma had gone under. My dad dived in, pulled her out. She coughed up water and cried, and she was okay. But I wasn't. From that day forward, my voice was gone. Not physically, the doctors checked everything. My vocal cords were fine. It was something else. Something the therapists called selective mutism brought on by trauma. I called it my curse. Fast forward to 7th grade at Riverside Middle School. By now, everyone knew me as the mute kid. Some teachers tried to be understanding. Most students weren't. There was this guy, Brandon Matthews, star of the basketball team. His dad owned half the businesses in town, including the car dealership where my dad worked as a mechanic. Brandon decided I was his personal entertainment. If you love stories like this, please like and hit the subscribe button. Hey, Silent Dan, cat got your tongue? Or maybe you never had one. He'd laugh and his friends, Kyle, Josh, and Marcus, would join in. Every single day, they'd knock my books out of my hands, trip me in the hallway, steal my lunch, and I couldn't say a word. I couldn't defend myself. Couldn't even tell a teacher without writing it down. And by the time I did, they'd act innocent. "Daniel's making things up again," Brandon would say with his perfect smile. "We were just playing around." Have you ever felt completely powerless? Drop a comment if you know what that's like. But there was one person who saw me differently. Sarah Chun sat next to me in English class. She had these thick-rimmed glasses and always carried a sketchbook covered in drawings of dragons and castles. One day, after Brandon dumped my backpack in the trash, Sarah walked up to me in the library. "You don't have to say anything," she said quietly. "But I made you this." She handed me a drawing. It showed a knight in armor, but the knight's mouth was covered by a cloth. Above him, she'd written, "The quietest people have the loudest minds." I looked up at her, and she just smiled. "I'm Sarah. I already know you're Daniel. Want to sit together at lunch?" For the first time in 4 years, I felt seen. Sarah and I became inseparable. She'd talk. I'd write in the notebook I always carried. She taught me that silence didn't mean I had nothing to say. "You know," she said one day while we ate lunch on the bleachers, away from everyone else, "my grandma always said that people who talk less hear more, notice more. Maybe your silence is actually a superpower." I wrote in my notebook, "It doesn't feel like one." That's because you're still learning how to use it. I didn't understand what she meant then, but I would. Things got worse in 8th grade. Brandon's bullying went from mean to dangerous. He'd follow me home sometimes, him and his crew, throwing rocks at my back, calling me names I won't repeat. One day after school, they cornered me behind the gym. "I'm so bored of you not fighting back," Brandon said, getting in my face. "It's no fun when you just stand there like a dummy." He shoved me hard. I stumbled but didn't fall. "Come on, say something, anything." Kyle grabbed my notebook and tore out pages, throwing them in the mud. That notebook had months of conversations with Sarah in it. Drawings she'd made, notes we'd passed. My only voice. Something changed in me that day. Something cold settled in my chest. I picked up my torn pages, walked away, and made a decision. If I couldn't speak, I'd learn other ways to make myself heard. I started watching, really watching. I noticed that Brandon always parked his expensive bike in the same spot. That Kyle cheated off Marcus's tests in math. That Josh had a huge crush on Emily Rodriguez but was too scared to talk to her. I noticed which teachers left their classrooms unlocked, which hallways had cameras and which didn't. When the janitor took his breaks. Every pattern, every routine, every weakness. I also started learning other skills. I taught myself lock-picking from YouTube videos, just simple combination locks at first. I learned how to move silently, how to blend into the background even more than I already did. And I planned. 2 weeks later, Brandon came to school to find his bike's tires completely flat. Not slashed, that would be obvious vandalism. Just slowly deflated over several hours using a tiny puncture that would be impossible to find. He was furious, but there was no proof of anything. The next week, Kyle failed a major math test because his usual cheat sheet, Marcus's test, had all wrong answers. Turns out someone had sneaked into Marcus's backpack and swapped his study guide with one full of mistakes the night before. Both boys accused each other. Their friendship cracked. The week after that, Josh's crush Emily received an anonymous note in her locker. A note written in Josh's handwriting that I'd carefully practiced, saying some really immature, embarrassing things about her. She slapped him in the cafeteria. I watched it all from my corner table, sitting with Sarah, expressionless as always. "Daniel," Sarah whispered, watching the chaos. "This is you, isn't it?" I wrote in my new notebook. "I don't know what you're talking about." She studied my face for a long moment. Then she wrote something back. "Be careful. Revenge has a way of becoming the thing you're fighting against." I should have listened to her. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Brandon was the real target. The others were just practice. See, I discovered something interesting. Brandon's dad, Mr. Matthews, the rich dealership owner, was very particular about his reputation. And Brandon had a secret that would destroy that reputation if it got out. He'd been stealing answer keys from the teacher's lounge and selling them to other students for cash. I'd watched him do it 3 times, carefully documenting everything with timestamps and details in my notebook. But I didn't want to just expose him. That was too simple. I wanted him to feel what I'd felt for years. Powerless, voiceless, invisible. It took 6 weeks to set up perfectly. First, I made anonymous reports about the cheating ring to the principal's office, but made sure Brandon's name wasn't mentioned. Only his friends. This put the school on high alert. Then I planted fake evidence in Kyle's locker that made it look like he was framing Brandon. Kyle got suspended. Josh, already humiliated by the Emily situation, quit the basketball team. Marcus started skipping school entirely. Brandon's crew was destroyed, and he didn't understand why. "Everything's falling apart," I heard him tell a friend. "It's like someone's sabotaging us." He had no idea how right he was. The last part of my plan was beautiful in its simplicity. There was going to be a big school assembly about academic integrity. Ironic, right? The principal had invited Brandon to speak because he was student body vice president and had excellent grades. What Brandon didn't know was that during his speech, the AV system would accidentally display a video clip from the security camera I'd hacked into weeks earlier, footage showing him stealing answer keys. The camera I'd deliberately positioned in the teacher's lounge after figuring out the school's ancient security system used the same default password for everything. Everything was ready. The assembly was in 2 days. I was finally going to make Brandon pay for every humiliation, every beating, every day he'd made me feel worthless. But then something happened that I didn't expect. The day before the assembly, Sarah didn't come to school. She was always at school. She had perfect attendance. At lunch, I sat alone at our usual spot, feeling uneasy. The whole day felt wrong somehow. After school, I went to her house. Her mom answered the door, and her face was red from crying. She recognized me. I'd been there before, though I'd only ever waved. "Daniel," she said, her voice shaking. "Sarah's in the hospital. She tried to hurt herself last night." The world stopped. "She left a note," Her mom continued, tears streaming. She said she couldn't handle the guilt anymore, that she'd become someone she didn't recognize, that she'd let her anger turn her into a monster. She handed me a sealed envelope with my name on it. She wanted you to have this. I opened it with trembling hands. Dear Daniel, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for encouraging you. I'm sorry for thinking revenge was cool or justified. I'm sorry for not stopping you. A month ago, Brandon pushed my little brother off his bike and gave him a black eye. I was so angry. And when I saw what you were doing to him and his friends, part of me loved it. I wanted them to suffer. But then I started having nightmares. I see my brother's face, but it turns into Brandon's face, and they're both scared and hurt. I wake up feeling like I'm drowning. My therapist says I'm having panic attacks from the guilt. I realize something, Danny. When we hurt people, even people who hurt us first, we don't become strong. We just become another version of them. You're not weak because you're silent. You're not powerless because you can't speak. Your silence was never the problem. The problem is that we both forgot what being hurt was supposed to teach us. How not to hurt others. I don't want you to become Brandon. And I don't want to be the person who helped you. Please stop whatever you're planning. Please. Not for him, for you. Love, Sarah. P.S. Your silence is still a superpower. But superpowers are supposed to protect people, not destroy them. I stood in Sarah's front yard, reading her letter over and over. Tomorrow was the assembly. Tomorrow, Brandon would be humiliated in front of the entire school. His father would find out. His reputation would be destroyed. He'd feel exactly what I'd felt. It was everything I'd wanted for 2 years. But Sarah was in the hospital because of guilt. Guilt from just watching what I was doing. What would happen to me if I actually went through with it? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind at war with itself. Part of me screamed, he deserves it. He deserves every bit of pain coming to him. But another part, quieter, whispered, what did Sarah's letter say? That you'd become another version of him? By morning, I still hadn't decided. The auditorium was packed. The entire middle school, over 600 kids, filed into the bleachers. I sat in my usual spot, back row, far corner. Invisible as always. Principal Harrison spoke about integrity and honesty, about being true to your word. Then Brandon walked up to the podium to give his speech. He looked nervous. His hands shook slightly as he held his note cards. Good morning, everyone, he started. I'm here to talk about the importance of doing your own work. The irony was suffocating. I had my phone in my pocket. One text message to the AV room where I'd set up everything and the video would play. Brandon's stealing would be exposed to everyone. My finger hovered over the send button. Because when you cheat, Brandon continued, his voice getting stronger, you're not just lying to your teachers. You're lying to yourself about who you really are. Something in his voice made me look up from my phone. He looked tired, beaten down. His eyes had dark circles under them. And lying about who you are, he said slowly, is the loneliest thing in the world. For just a second, his voice cracked. He cleared his throat, embarrassed. That's when I saw it. His hands weren't just shaking from nerves. There was a bruise on his wrist, barely visible under his sleeve. And the way he stood, favoring his left side slightly. I'd been watching Brandon for months. I knew his patterns. I knew his routines. And suddenly, I realized something I'd been too blind to see. Brandon was being hurt too. Pieces fell into place. The days Brandon was extra cruel were always after his dad picked him up from school. The expensive bike Brandon rode? His dad made him earn it by being a man, which meant winning at basketball, getting perfect grades, and never showing weakness. The pressure, the expectations, the fear in Brandon's eyes when his dad's name was mentioned. Brandon wasn't evil. He was broken, just like me. He hurt others because someone was hurting him. That didn't excuse what he'd done. It didn't make his bullying okay. But it meant that destroying him wouldn't solve anything. It would just continue the cycle. Sarah was right. I looked at my phone one last time. Then I deleted the text message without sending it. I stood up and walked out of the assembly, leaving Brandon to finish his speech without sabotage. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. The aftermath. That afternoon, I went to Principal Harrison's office with my notebook and wrote down everything. The stolen answer keys, the cheating ring, the bullying I'd endured, and yes, the revenge I'd almost enacted. Not to get Brandon in trouble. To get him help. Mr. Harrison, I wrote, something's wrong in Brandon Matthews' home. I don't know what exactly, but I think he needs someone to check on him. Not as punishment, as protection. The principal studied me for a long moment. Daniel, he said slowly, this is the first time you've ever reported anything to me directly. Why now? I wrote, because I almost became something worse than the person who hurt me. And someone I care about got hurt because of it. He nodded slowly. I'll make some calls. And Daniel? Thank you. I visited Sarah in the hospital the next day. She was in a psychiatric ward, but she was safe. When she saw me, she started crying. You didn't do it, she said. You didn't go through with it. I shook my head and wrote, you saved me. We saved each other, she corrected. She told me she was getting help. Real help. Therapy for the anger and guilt she'd been carrying. It would take time, but she was going to be okay. What are you going to do now? She asked. I wrote, learn to use my silence the right way. Within a week, Child Protective Services visited the Matthews home. Turned out, Brandon's dad had been physically abusing him for years. The pressure to be perfect, the violent punishments for failure, all of it came out. Brandon and his mom moved out. His dad was arrested. I never expected what happened next. Sophomore year at Riverside High was different. I was still silent, but I wasn't invisible anymore. After what happened with Brandon, some people started seeing me differently. They knew I'd reported him, that I'd somehow been involved in exposing his dad's abuse. I became known as someone who noticed things, who paid attention, and slowly people started coming to me with their problems. It started with Maya Rodriguez, Emily's younger sister. She sat down across from me at lunch one day, where I now sat with Sarah and a couple other friends. Daniel, she said nervously, I need your help, but you can't tell anyone. I pulled out my notebook. What's wrong? Someone's been following me home from school, taking pictures. I'm scared, but I don't want to worry my parents, and I don't have proof, so the police won't help. I wrote, what makes you think someone's following you? Little things. A car that's always parked on my street when I get home but gone by the time my parents arrive. Footsteps behind me that stop when I stop. And yesterday, I found this. She showed me her phone. Someone had created a fake social media account with her pictures, posting creepy comments about watching her. Sarah leaned forward. This is serious, Maya. You need to tell your parents. They'll freak out. They'll never let me go anywhere alone again. I need to know who it is first, so I can handle it. I thought for a moment, then wrote, give me 3 days. That afternoon, I did what I do best. I watched. I waited outside the school and followed Maya at a distance as she walked home, watching for anyone following her. Nothing obvious, but I noticed a silver Honda that drove past 3 times in 15 minutes. I took pictures of the license plate. Day 2. I positioned myself in different spots along her route. Coffee shop, bus stop, park bench. The same Honda appeared again. But this time I got a glimpse of the driver. My blood ran cold. It was Mr. Peterson, the school's assistant principal. This was bad. Really bad. An adult. An authority figure. Someone everyone trusted. If I accused him without proof, no one would believe me. The mute kid against a respected educator. He'd deny everything, and Maya would be in even more danger because he'd know someone was onto him. I needed concrete evidence. But how do you get evidence on someone who's supposed to be protecting students? I spent that night researching online predators and how they operate, the patterns, the methods, psychology. Then I made a plan, a dangerous one. The next day, I left a note in Maya's locker. Trust me. Walk home as usual. Don't look behind you. I'm watching. I also did something I swore I'd never do again. I set a trap. I'd hacked into the school's parking lot security cameras. I know, but desperate times. I positioned my phone to record Maya's route from a different angle. Then I created a fake emergency. Using a friend's phone, with permission, I called the main office reporting smoke in the science building. Not enough to evacuate, just enough to distract. While everyone was checking on the smoke, which was just some dry eyesight hidden, Mr. Peterson made his move. He followed Maya, getting close enough to talk to her. I recorded everything from my hidden position. Maya, he said, approaching her. I've been worried about you. You seem distracted lately. Maybe we should talk in my office. I'm fine, Mr. Peterson. I'm just heading home. I insist. A one-on-one meeting. Private. The way he said private made my skin crawl. Maya looked uncomfortable. My parents are expecting me. It won't take long. That's when I stepped out from behind the building. I just stood there, holding my phone up, showing him I was recording. Mr. Peterson's face went white, then red. Daniel Pierce, this is none of your business. I wrote on my phone's notepad and showed it to him. The police will decide that. You have no idea what you're doing, Mr. Peterson said, his voice shaking. That recording means nothing. I was just trying to help a student. Maya backed away from him. You've been following me, taking pictures. That's ridiculous. I have your license plate on camera from 4 different days. I typed quickly. Your car is parked outside her house. Time stamped. And this conversation where you tried to isolate a 15-year-old girl. Should I send it to the real principal? Or the police? His confidence crumbled. You don't understand. I wasn't going to hurt her. I just wanted to. He couldn't even finish the sentence. Sarah appeared from around the corner. I texted her earlier to be nearby, just in case. Daniel's already emailed the evidence to the police and the principal. They're on their way. It was a bluff. But Mr. Peterson didn't know that. He ran, got in his silver Honda and drove off. We called the real police immediately. They caught him 2 hours later trying to flee the state. On his computer, they found hundreds of photos of students. Evidence of stalking that went back years. Maya was safe. So were countless other students who might have been his next targets. After that, something shifted. Students started approaching me more often. Not for normal teenage problems, but for the things they couldn't tell adults. The girl being blackmailed by her ex-boyfriend with private photos. The boy whose friends were actually stealing from his family. The kid who witnessed drug dealing but was too scared to report it. I became a shadow protector, the silent guardian who could investigate without drawing attention. Sarah worried about me. Danny, you're taking on too much. These aren't just mysteries. They're dangerous situations. I wrote, someone has to help them. But why does it have to be you? Because I know what it's like when no one listens. The Rodriguez case takes a turn. But my investigation business attracted the wrong kind of attention. One day, I received a note in my locker. No name, just a message. Stop helping people or people you care about will get hurt. You've been warned. I showed it to Sarah. This is it, Daniel. We're going to the police. But before we could, something happened. Maya Rodriguez disappeared. She didn't come to school. Didn't answer texts. When Sarah and I went to her house, her parents were frantic. She left for school this morning and never arrived. Her mom sobbed. Her phone is off. No one's seen her. They'd already called the police, but the cops said they had to wait 24 hours for a missing persons report. 24 hours. Maya could be dead in 24 hours. I pulled out my notebook and wrote to her parents. I'm going to find her. Promise. I had one advantage the police didn't. I knew who might want to take Maya. Mr. Peterson was in jail, but he had an accomplice. Someone who'd been helping him all along. I'd seen hints of it in the security footage but hadn't pursued it because Peterson was the priority. I went back through all my evidence, looking for patterns. There. In 3 different videos, someone was watching while Peterson followed Maya. Always in the background. Always careful to stay out of clear view. But in one frame, reflected in a car window, I caught a partial glimpse of the person's face. My hands started shaking. I knew exactly who it was. It was Officer James Rickshaw, the school resource officer. The cop everyone trusted. The one who gave presentations about safety and stranger danger. He'd been Peterson's inside man, warning him when students reported suspicious activity, making evidence disappear. And now he had Maya. I had two choices. One, go to the police. But Rickshaw was one of them. Who would believe me, the mute kid, over an officer with 15 years on the force? By the time they investigated, Maya could be dead. Two, find Maya myself. But that meant going after a trained cop who'd already proven he was dangerous. Sarah grabbed my arm. Don't you dare. Don't you dare try to be a hero, Daniel. We call the FBI. We call someone from outside town. I wrote, there's no time. Then I'm coming with you. No. Yes. You don't get to push me away. Not after everything. I looked at her. My best friend. The person who'd saved me from becoming a monster. I couldn't risk her life. So I lied. I wrote, okay. But we need supplies. Go to the store and get flashlights and a first aid kit. Meet me back here in an hour. She hugged me. Be safe. Please. The moment she left, I grabbed my backpack and headed out. I wasn't going to wait an hour. Police officers are predictable. They follow patterns, procedures, protocols. I'd been watching Rickshaw all year as part of normal school routine. I knew his habits. He had a cabin. He'd mentioned it once during a safety presentation about wilderness survival. My grandfather's old hunting cabin up near Pine Ridge, he'd said. It was remote, isolated, perfect for hiding someone. I rode my bike 20 miles into the mountains. It took 2 hours and every ounce of strength I had. When I finally found the cabin, it was almost dark. Rickshaw's patrol car was parked outside. The cabin was small. 2 rooms, maybe. One dim light in the front window. I circled around back, staying low. Through a crack in the boards, I could see Maya. She was tied to a chair, tape over her mouth, but she was alive. Rickshaw was pacing, talking on his phone. I don't care about the risk, Peterson. This kid has been a problem for months. Always snooping, always getting involved. After we deal with the girl, he's next. Yeah, I know where he lives. Tomorrow. They were planning to come after me next. I needed to get Maya out now. The back door was locked, but locks were something I'd practiced. In 60 seconds, I had it open. I slipped inside, quiet as a ghost. Maya's eyes widened when she saw me. I put a finger to my lips. Rickshaw was still in the other room, his back to us. I worked on Maya's ropes. They were tight, too tight. Come on. Come on. Who's back there? Rickshaw's footsteps headed toward us. I got the last rope loose and yanked the tape off Maya's mouth. Run, she gasped. But Rickshaw was already in the doorway, his gun drawn. Well, Daniel Pierce, the silent hero. He smiled coldly. You just made a very stupid mistake, kid. Both of you against the wall. Now, we had nowhere to go. The back door was blocked by his position. You know what the problem with you is, Daniel? Rickshaw said, advancing slowly. You think being smart is enough. You think watching people and taking notes makes you powerful. He was right. I had no weapon. No way to fight a grown man with police training. But you're still just a kid. A scared, silent kid who should have minded his own business. Maya grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. This was it. We were going to die in this cabin. Unless I did something I hadn't done in 9 years. I opened my mouth and spoke. You're wrong. My voice was raspy, broken, barely above a whisper. But it was there. Rickshaw froze, his eyes wide with shock. What? You said. I'm powerless. The words hurt coming out, like glass in my throat. But you're wrong. Shut up. Because before I came here, I sent everything, every video, every note, every piece of evidence to the FBI. It was a lie, a desperate bluff, but I sold it with every fiber of my being. The cabin's surrounded. You can hear the sirens if you listen. In the distance, whether by miracle or coincidence, a siren actually did sound. Maybe an ambulance on the highway miles away. But it was enough. Rickshaw's confidence cracked. He moved to the window to look out. That's when Maya struck. She grabbed a lamp from the table and smashed it against his head. He went down hard. We ran. We burst out of the cabin and sprinted into the woods. Behind us, I could hear Rickshaw recovering, shouting after us. The forest was dark. We stumbled over roots, branches whipping our faces. "Daniel, your voice!" Maya gasped as we ran. "You spoke." I couldn't answer. My throat was already closing up again, the words disappearing back into silence. We ran for what felt like hours but was probably 20 minutes. Finally, we reached the main road where I'd left my bike. Car approached, headlights blinding. We froze. The car stopped. The door opened. It was Sarah. Sarah's rescue. "Get in!" she screamed. "Now!" We dove into her mom's car. Sarah hit the gas before we even closed the doors. "You lied to me!" she shouted, tears streaming down her face. "You went alone. I swear." "Daniel Pierce, when this is over I'm going to." "How did you find us?" Maya asked. "I put a tracking app on Daniel's phone months ago. After the Peterson thing, I knew he'd try something stupid. She'd saved our lives. We drove straight to the state police barracks, not the local one where Rickshaw worked. Sarah had already called ahead, explaining everything. By midnight, Rickshaw was in custody. The FBI did get involved, just like I'd claimed. They found evidence linking him and Peterson to a larger network of predators. We'd done it. Maya was safe. The story broke nationally. Mute teen exposes police corruption and saves classmate. I hated the attention, but at least it was over, or so I thought, because 3 weeks later, I received another note. "You cost me everything. My partner, my freedom, my life, but you didn't get everyone involved. There's still one person left, and they're closer to you than you think. Sleep tight, silent boy. Your voice won't save you next time." The note was from inside Rickshaw's prison cell. Someone was still out there. Someone connected to all of this. Someone I knew. After Rickshaw's note, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus. Someone close to me was involved. But who? I started analyzing everyone in my life, looking for signs, patterns, anything suspicious. My dad? No, he'd been working double shifts at the dealership for months. Counted for. My teachers? Possible but unlikely. Most of them barely knew me. Friends? Sarah had proven herself repeatedly. The others in my group were kids I'd helped. Why would they turn on me? The paranoia was eating me alive. "Danny, you're spiraling," Sarah said one day after I'd snapped at her for sitting too close. "This is exactly what Rickshaw wants. For you to lose trust in everyone." I wrote, "One of them betrayed me. One of them is working with him. Or he's lying, trying to break you psychologically." I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. Then I started noticing things. Small things. Weird things. Someone had been in my room. Nothing stolen, just rearranged slightly. My notebook had pages missing, pages where I'd written about the investigation. Someone had accessed my computer. Files were opened at times I wasn't home. I wasn't paranoid. I was being watched. I spent my savings on tiny cameras, the kind people use for home security. I hid them throughout my house, my room, my locker, even one in Sarah's car, with her permission. I told her everything. Then I waited. For 3 days, nothing. Just normal footage of me doing homework, my parents watching TV, my little sister Emma, now 15, practicing guitar in her room. Then, on day 4, I reviewed the footage from my room. 2:47 a.m. My door opened. A figure stepped inside, moving carefully, checking to make sure I was asleep. They went straight to my desk, opened my notebook, took photos with their phone. When they turned toward the camera, my blood turned to ice. It was Emma, my little sister. I didn't confront her immediately. I couldn't process it. Emma? The sister I'd lost my voice trying to save? The one I'd protected our entire lives? I watched more footage. She'd been doing this for weeks, reading my notes, photographing my evidence, and then sending it somewhere. I followed her phone's activity using a tracker I'd installed on our family plan. Yes, I know it's wrong, but nothing was normal anymore. She was sending messages to an unknown number, encrypted, but I managed to crack enough to understand. She was reporting everything I did to someone, every investigation, every person I helped, everything. I waited until our parents went to bed. Then I knocked on Emma's door. She opened it, saw my face, and immediately knew. "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. I held up my phone, showing her the camera footage. Her face didn't show surprise or guilt, just resignation. "I can explain," she said. I pulled out my notebook with shaking hands. "You've been spying on me, sending my information to someone." "Who?" "I can't tell you that. You owe me an explanation." "I saved your life." The words on the page were harsh, angry. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You saved me?" she said, her voice rising. "Daniel, you watched me drown. You stood there and couldn't even scream for help. Do you have any idea what that's like? Sinking underwater, seeing your big brother on the dock, and realizing he can't save you." The words hit like physical blows. "I was 6 years old and I almost died because you were too weak to yell for help. And then for 9 years, I had to watch everyone pity you. Poor silent Daniel. Poor traumatized Daniel. But what about me? I'm the one who has nightmares about drowning. I'm the one who had to go to therapy for years. But nobody cared because you were the damaged one." I stepped back, my notebook falling from my hands. So when someone approached me and offered to help me finally matter more than my broken brother, I said yes. "Who approached you?" I typed frantically on my phone. "Someone who's been watching you for a long time. Someone who lost everything because of you and wants you to suffer the way they've suffered. Rickshaw, Peterson, bigger than them. They were just employees." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. "Who?" Emma looked away. "I'm sorry, Danny. I really am. But they have something on me. If I don't help them..." A canister flew into the room, spewing thick white smoke. "Emma!" I tried to scream, but my voice was still barely a whisper. Someone grabbed her from behind, pulling her through the window. I lunged forward, but the smoke was too thick. My eyes burned. My lungs seized. I heard Emma scream once, then nothing. When the smoke cleared, she was gone. On Emma's bed, written in red marker, "You have 48 hours. Find your voice or lose your sister. The place where it all began. Come alone or she dies. No police. No Sarah. Just you and your silence, Daniel. The place where it all began. Cedar Lake. Where Emma almost drowned. Where I lost my voice. They were going to make me watch her drown again." I called 911. Told them Emma was kidnapped, writing it out for the operator. They said they'd send officers immediately. But I knew the truth. By the time police got involved, filed reports, started investigating, Emma would be dead. 48 hours. 2 days. I had to go to Cedar Lake. But first, I needed to understand who I was really dealing with. I went through everything. Every case. Every person I'd helped. Every enemy I'd made. Peterson and Rickshaw were in federal prison. No way they orchestrated this. But Emma said someone bigger. Someone who'd been watching me for a long time. I started mapping connections. Peterson knew Rickshaw. Rickshaw knew other corrupt cops. Those cops knew. Wait, I pulled up old news articles from the Maya Rodriguez case. One name kept appearing in the background, never quite in focus. Detective Sarah Chin. No, not Sarah. Couldn't be. Then I saw it. Different Sarah Chin. Same last name. Sarah's aunt. Her father's sister. I'd never met her. Sarah never talked about her. But according to public records, Detective Sarah Chun had been investigating Peterson and Rickshaw for months before I exposed them. I'd ruined her case, stolen her glory, made her years of work worthless because a teenager solved it first. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Drop a comment if you know this pain. I texted Sarah. We need to talk. Now. Your place. 20 minutes later, I was in her room, showing her everything. My Aunt Sarah? She said, her face pale. You think my aunt kidnapped your sister? I nodded, showing her the connections I'd mapped out. That's insane. She's a cop. She protects people. She was building a career-making case. I destroyed it. So what? She gets revenge by hurting Emma? By manipulating Emma against you? Sarah shook her head. There has to be more to this. She pulled out her laptop and started digging into her aunt's background. What we found was worse than we imagined. Detective Sarah Chun wasn't just investigating Peterson and Rickshaw. She was their partner. She'd been running the entire Predator network from inside the police department. Peterson and Rickshaw were her muscle, her fall guys. When I exposed them, she lost everything. Her operation, her income, her protection. But she was smart. She'd hidden her involvement perfectly. The FBI never found evidence linking her. Except I had been getting close. My notes from the Maya Rodriguez case had mentioned an unnamed third person in some of the surveillance footage. That's why she'd recruited Emma, to keep tabs on me, to make sure I never connected the dots. But now I had, and she knew it. We have to go to the FBI, Sarah said. Show them everything. No time. 48 hours. Then we go to Cedar Lake together. I'm not letting you. She said, come alone. I don't care. You're not facing this psychopath by yourself. I grabbed Sarah's hands and wrote in her palm with my finger. If something happens to me, you're the only one who can finish this. You're the only one I trust. Please. She was crying now. I can't lose you, Danny. You're my best friend. You won't. Promise. Another lie. I was probably going to die at Cedar Lake. But at least Emma might survive. I spent the next 24 hours getting ready. I couldn't fight Detective Chun physically. She was trained, armed, and dangerous. But I could use what I was good at: preparation, observation, planning. I studied the layout of Cedar Lake. Every trail, every hiding spot, every exit. I packed my backpack. Flashlight, rope, first aid kit, waterproof phone case, and something I'd borrowed from my dad's toolbox. A flare gun for marine emergencies. Not a weapon exactly, but it could blind someone long enough to run. I also did something I'd been avoiding. I practiced speaking. Standing in front of my bathroom mirror at 3 a.m., I forced words out. Emma. Barely a whisper. Emma. A little louder. Emma. My throat felt like it was tearing, but sound came out. I couldn't hold a conversation. But maybe, just maybe, I could scream when it mattered. Before I left, I wrote Sarah a letter and hid it in her car's glove compartment. Time to send her a text about it if I didn't check in after 12 hours. Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm probably dead or captured. Here's everything you need to know. Detective Sarah Chun, your aunt, is the head of the Predator network. All the evidence is on the USB drive taped under your driver's seat. Photos, documents, the pattern of her involvement. She has Emma at Cedar Lake, the old boathouse on the North Shore. If I don't stop her, you have to. Not for revenge, not for justice, but because there are other kids out there she'll hurt. You once told me my silence was a superpower. You were right. Taught me to listen, to notice, to see what others miss. But I learned something else. The most powerful thing isn't silence or speech. It's choosing when to use each one. Thank you for being my voice when I couldn't find my own. Love, Danny. P.S. Don't blame yourself for your aunt. You're nothing like her. You're the best person I know. I took my bike, rode through the night. The lake looked different than I remembered. Darker, colder. The boathouse was exactly where I remembered. A rotting structure on the North Shore, half collapsed into the water. I checked my phone. 4:47 a.m. Just over an hour until sunrise. The deadline was 6 a.m. I was early. That's when I heard it. A scream. Emma's scream. I ran. The boathouse interior was lit by a single camping lantern. Emma was tied to a chair in the center of the room, positioned directly over a hole in the floor. Water lapped underneath her, dark and deep. Daniel! She screamed when she saw me. It's a trap. Run. Too late. The door slammed shut behind me. Locks clicked into place. Detective Sarah Chun stepped out from the shadows, a gun in her hand. Right on time, she said. You always were predictable, Daniel. She looked like her niece, same features, same eyes. But where Sarah's eyes were warm, her aunt's were cold as the lake water below us. Do you know how long I planned this? She said, circling slowly. 2 years. 2 years of watching you play hero, ruining my life's work piece by piece. I reached for my notebook, but she fired a shot into the floor near my feet. No writing, no tricks. You want to save your sister? Use your voice. Beg for her life. I opened my mouth. Please. Louder. Please. Don't hurt her. She can barely hear you, Daniel. Scream. Use that voice you've been hiding for 9 years. I tried. God, I tried. But the words stuck in my throat like always. Detective Chin laughed. You really are broken, aren't you? You can't even save your sister when it matters most. Just like before. She walked to Emma's chair and kicked it. The chair teetered over the hole. No! I screamed, actually screamed. The word ripped out of me, raw and painful but loud. Chin froze. Well, progress. Here's what's going to happen, Chin said. You're going to confess that you fabricated all the evidence against me. You're going to say you were obsessed with attention and made everything up. You'll record it on video. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I drop your sister into the water. And this time you can scream all you want. No one's coming to save her. Emma was crying. Danny, don't do it. She's going to kill us anyway. Chun hit her across the face. Shut up. My hands clenched into fists. I'd never wanted to hurt someone so badly in my life. The video, Daniel. Now. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Chun smiled, thinking she'd won. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She assumed I came alone. I hadn't. I called someone. Not Sarah. She'd have tried to stop me. Not the police. Chun would have spotted them. I called Brandon Matthews. Yes, that Brandon. The bully who'd made my life hell in middle school. After his dad's arrest, after he'd gotten therapy and changed schools, we talked. Once. He'd apologized. Said he was trying to be better. If you ever need anything, he'd said. I owe you. I texted him yesterday with simple instructions. Cedar Lake. North Boathouse. 6 a.m. Bring friends. Stay hidden until you hear the signal. The signal was going to be the flare gun. But I had to time it perfectly. If I fired too early, Chun would shoot Emma. Too late and we'd both be dead. I needed to keep Chun talking. Distracted. Start recording, Chun ordered. I held up my phone, but instead of opening the camera, I opened my notes and typed. You know the FBI already has the evidence, right? She leaned in to read it, lowering her guard just slightly. Sarah found your offshore accounts. Your safe house. Everything. You really think I'd come here without insurance? You're lying. Check your phone. Sarah sent you an email 5 minutes ago with screenshots. It was a bluff, but Chen's confidence wavered. She pulled out her phone to check. That's when I made my move. I pulled the flare gun from my backpack and fired it straight up through the gap in the boathouse roof. The red flare screamed into the pre-dawn sky, bright as a star. Chen spun around. What did you? The boathouse doors exploded inward. Brandon and 4 other guys from the basketball team rushed in, not to fight, but to overwhelm. Chen fired twice, missed both shots in the chaos. I dove for Emma's chair, pulling her back from the edge of the hole. Get them out! Chun screamed, firing again. But there were too many targets. Brandon tackled her from the side, and the gun went flying. Even without the gun, Chun was dangerous. She'd been trained in hand-to-hand combat. She threw Brandon off her like he weighed nothing, then grabbed a piece of broken wood and swung it like a bat. 2 guys went down. She was heading for Emma again. I stepped between them. Move, she snarled. I shook my head. You think you can stop me? You can't even talk. She swung the wood at my head. I ducked, barely. She was right, I couldn't fight her. But I didn't have to. I just had to hold her off for 30 more seconds. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Sarah had found evidence. She'd been investigating her aunt all night while I traveled to the lake. And she'd called the FBI the moment she confirmed the connection. Chun heard the sirens too. Her face went pale. No, no. She made one last desperate lunge for Emma, but I grabbed her arm. She threw me off, sending me crashing into the wall. Pain exploded in my ribs, but it bought enough time. FBI agents burst into the boathouse, guns drawn. Freeze! Hands up! Chun looked at me, at Emma, at the agents surrounding her. She ran for the hole in the floor, dove into the water below, disappeared into the dark. Agents dove in after her. Others cut Emma free. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Danny. She said she'd hurt you if I didn't help her. She said she'd make it look like you were the predator, and no one would believe you because you couldn't defend yourself. Shoo! I whispered. The word was barely audible, but Emma heard it. You spoke, she cried. Danny, you spoke. I had to save you. The words hurt. Each one felt like swallowing glass. But they were there. My voice was coming back. They pulled Chen's body from the water 20 minutes later. She'd hit her head on a submerged rock. Died instantly. Part of me felt relief. Part of me felt empty. The monster was gone. But victory tasted like ash. Emma and I were taken to the hospital, treated for minor injuries. The FBI questioned us for hours. Sarah arrived around noon, throwing her arms around me and not letting go for a full minute. You idiot, she sobbed. You brilliant, stupid, heroic idiot. Brandon visited too, looking uncomfortable. Hey, he said. Are we good? I pulled out my notebook. We're good. Thank you for coming. Man, after everything you did for me, exposing my dad, getting me help, this was the least I could do. He paused. I know I can't take back the years I made your life hell, but maybe we could start over. I wrote, I'd like that. Life didn't magically get perfect. Emma and I went to therapy together, separately too, working through the trauma, the betrayal, the guilt we both carried. She explained everything. How Chun had approached her online, pretending to be a friend. How she'd slowly manipulated Emma's resentment toward me, turning it into a weapon. I never really hated you, Emma said during one of our sessions. I was just hurt, and she knew exactly how to exploit that. I understand, I said. My voice was stronger now, though I still struggled with long sentences. The therapist encouraged us both. Healing isn't linear. Some days will be harder than others. But you're both making remarkable progress. With Chun dead, there was no trial. But the FBI investigation uncovered everything. A network spanning 5 states. Dozens of predators. Hundreds of victims. All of it connected back to Chun, who'd been running the operation for over a decade. The evidence I'd gathered, combined with Sarah's investigation, helped the FBI dismantle the entire network. 43 arrests. 17 convictions so far. Sarah and I were interviewed on national news. I let Sarah do the talking, but I managed to say a few words. Silence doesn't mean powerless. Sometimes, the quietest people see the most. The clip went viral. Hundreds of thousands of views. People called me a hero. I didn't feel like one. I felt like someone who'd almost lost everything because I was too focused on fixing others instead of healing myself. Senior year at Riverside High was surreal. Everyone knew who I was now. The kid who took down a predator network, who saved his sister, who found his voice. Some people treated me like a celebrity. Others avoided me, uncomfortable with my story. I preferred the ones who just treated me normally. Brandon introduced me to his friends on the basketball team. Real friends, not the toxic group from middle school. Maya Rodriguez started a support group for survivors of stalking and abuse. I helped organize it, quietly, from the background. And Sarah? Sarah got early admission to MIT. Full scholarship. She wanted to study criminal justice and technology. I'm going to build systems that catch people like my aunt, she said. Systems that actually protect kids. I wrote in my notebook, you're going to change the world. We're going to change it together. You're coming to Boston too, right? You got into Northeastern. I nodded. Computer science program. Full ride based on my investigative technology work. The night before I left for college, Emma knocked on my bedroom door. "Can we talk?" she asked. We sat on my bed, the same bed where I'd spent years planning investigations instead of living my life. "I need to tell you something," Emma said. "Something I should have said 9 years ago." She took a deep breath. "Thank you for trying to save me that day at the lake. I know you couldn't scream. I know you did everything you could. And I'm sorry I blamed you. I'm sorry I let that resentment turn me into someone who hurt you." Tears streamed down her face. "You're my big brother. You've always protected me, even when I didn't deserve it. Even when I was actively working against you." Pulled her into a hug. "I forgive you," I managed to say. "And I'm sorry I couldn't save you sooner." We cried together. For the little kids we'd been. For the trauma we'd carried. For the years we'd lost. But also for the future we'd built. Before I left for college, I did one last thing. I went back to Cedar Lake. I stood on the dock where I'd watched Emma drown 9 years ago. Where I'd lost my voice. Where, in a way, my entire journey had started. The water was calm, peaceful. Early morning mist rising off the surface. I thought about everything that had happened. Everyone I'd helped. Everyone I'd hurt along the way. The revenge I'd almost taken. The monster I'd almost become. The voice I'd lost and found again. And I realized something. My silence was never weakness. It was the space between who I was and who I needed to become. It was the pause before speaking that taught me the weight of words. It was the stillness that let me see what everyone else missed. I took a deep breath and spoke to the lake, to the memory of that 8-year-old boy, to myself. They thought my silence meant weakness. My voice was clear, strong, whole. They were wrong. 1 year later, I'm sitting in my dorm room at Northeastern University, writing this story. Sarah's across town at MIT. We meet every Sunday for dinner and compare notes on our classes. Emma just started her junior year of high school. She's in therapy, doing better, and she texts me every day. Sometimes just memes. Sometimes deep conversations about healing. We're okay. Not perfect, but okay. Brandon's at community college, studying to be a counselor. He wants to help kids like he used to be. Angry, hurt, lashing out. Maya Rodriguez started a nonprofit, Silent Voices, for kids who can't speak up about abuse. I help run their tech infrastructure. And my voice comes and goes. Some days I can talk normally. Other days the silence returns, especially when I'm stressed or scared. But I've learned that's okay. Because I've also learned this. Silence and voice aren't opposites. They're partners. Silence lets you listen. Voice lets you be heard. And real strength isn't about always being loud or always being quiet. It's about knowing when each one matters. I still carry a notebook everywhere. Old habits die hard. But now, on the first page, I've written something Sarah told me years ago. The quietest people have the loudest minds. She was right. My mind was loud enough to take down predators, expose corruption, and save lives. All without saying a word. Until I needed to. Until my voice mattered more than my silence. And when that moment came, when Emma's life hung in the balance, when everything I'd fought for was about to disappear, I screamed. I found my voice when it counted most. Not because the silence was weakness, but because silence had made me strong enough to know when to break it. If you're reading this, if you're watching this story, maybe you're silent too. Maybe you're the kid who can't speak up in class. The teenager who can't tell anyone about the abuse. The person who feels invisible, powerless, broken. I want you to know something. Your silence doesn't make you weak. It means you're listening, watching, learning. It means you're building strength in ways loud people never will. And when your moment comes, when you need to speak, to stand up, to fight back, you'll be ready. Your silence isn't your weakness. It's your superpower waiting to be activated. And one day, when the world least expects it, you'll show them just how wrong they were about you. Just like I did. Just like you will. My name is Daniel Pierce. For 9 years, I didn't speak. People thought I was weak. They were wrong. And now you know why. I'm about to close my laptop when an email notification pops up. Unknown sender. Subject line: "You didn't get everyone." My blood runs cold. I open it. Inside is a single photo, Cedar Lake Boathouse. But it's recent. Taken last week. Based on the timestamp. And written in red spray paint on the wall. Chun was just middle management. The real boss is still watching. Still waiting. Still hunting. See you soon, silent boy. The email deletes itself. I sit there, staring at my screen, heart pounding. It's not over. It was never over. Somewhere out there, someone bigger than Chun, bigger than all of this, is still operating. Still hurting kids. And they know about me. I pull out my phone and text Sarah. "We need to talk. It's not finished." Her response comes immediately. "I know. I got the same email. Emergency meeting. My place. Tonight." I look out my dorm window at the city lights of Boston. Somewhere in those lights, in some corner of this country, a predator is waiting, watching, planning. I close my laptop, grab my jacket, and head for the door. My silence was never weakness. And this war is far from over.